us keeping up with the tone that the world itself is setting for itself through evolution and revolution. I had the privilege of sitting in shortly and a little bit yesterday, so I did listen to some of the conversations that you had. And of course, we had Minister Blade Nzimande, who I loved his joke about the podium should go up or down or sideways to fit whatever body shape that there is. And I think it's imperative what he said, that modernized GovTech will play a pivotal role, and it already did actually during COVID-19 pandemic. We also then spoke about the KZN plan for ICT 2025. I think a big round of applause for KZN for always housing us for GovTech. We really do appreciate them housing this event. One of the key things I think you also touched on yesterday is the legislation and driving how the legislation is going to drive the digital economy. So really imperative conversations that couldn't have happened in one day. So we do need to continue the conversation then for days. Housekeeping rules before we do continue for the day. Firstly, I've got some really great news for you. We are running a competition. I don't think you hear me. I think I'm going to apply for this competition myself at this rate. So what there is there's a car, an actual car, not a model, an actual car, and there's a competition that is being run. This is then given to us by GovTech, but it's powered by Altron. So if you go to the Altron stand, in order to qualify for this competition, you have to go to the Altron stand. You will see the car positioned there. It has a QR code that you need to scan. Once you scan this QR code, it will land you on their app. And then once you're on the app, all you have to do to qualify for the competition is every time there is a session, there will be a code that will be provided at the end of a session. You input this code to say you have attended the session, and then you accumulate points. That's it. That's all you have to do to be in the running. Now, the maximum points that you can get throughout the next few days are 280 points. That's the maximum you can get. So if you get anything less than 280 points, you automatically don't qualify for the car. So the competition is going to be amongst those that get then the highest points, and then one person will be lucky and walk away with an actual car. How incredible is that? Well, you sound super excited. Thank you, everybody. How incredible is that? I think it's super stunning. I'm going to particularly enter because I'm part of the sessions too. So if you see me driving in my free car, do not complain because I was super excited about this competition. I'm joking. T's and C's apply. I'm automatically disqualified. To see who's been writing. A lot of you are not talking about GovTech. It's important that if we want conversations to continue outside, not everybody has the privilege of being in the room and learning this information. So in order for us to share this information, please do so. Share your takeaways, your nuggets, your thoughts on what's happening here on social media, and please feel free to then use the hashtag GovTech23. If you've got nothing to say about GovTech, I'm also okay if you just write, "Tummy looks absolutely beautiful," hashtag GovTech23. We really do need to have the conversations going. But without further ado, I think let's jump right into the first panel. We will now be discussing digitalization, AI and big data analytics, the role that they play in facilitating digital economy. It gives me absolutely great pleasure, but before I actually invite the moderator on stage, I just want to acknowledge all the sign language team that's here, that's assisting those that are online and in the room that require sign language. I think that it's such an incredible job that they do. So please, a round of applause for the ladies who are also co-hosting together with me. Please help me welcome on stage our moderator for the first panel, none other than Mr. Sabelo Dlamini. A round of applause as he makes his way up to stage, please. You're going to have to get the energy going there, hey, Subs. Fantastic. Over to you.
Cool. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's gala dinner. And thank you for making it this morning. Although most of the colleagues are still making it to the hall, thank you very much. We will try to catch up. I think we are a bit behind on time, but we'll try to catch up a bit. So I will try to call my panelists today, as we will be talking about digital economy. How does digitalization, AI, and big data analytics are playing a role in enabling this digital economy? And the most important thing about this digital economy, it also needs to be inclusive and contribute to I will first call on stage Gareth Whitaker, the Director of Software AG. Gareth's roles involve collaborating closely with customers, prospects, and contribute to the digital transformation strategies for his clients at Software AG. After Gareth, I will also call on Mdum Konza from Kenya Africa Networks. Kenya Africa Networks has got a lot of projects around digital transformation, and Mdum Konza plays a big role in researching and enabling his clients to transform and embrace digital transformation. After Mdu, I will call Mr. Mpo Motapo from BCX. Mpo is currently responsible for cloud advisory at BCX, South Africa's largest ICT systems integrator. Mpo is currently at the forefront of the industry's evolution with wealth of experience in innovation, efficiency, and excellency within digital transformation. And lastly, but not least, I will call on the CEO of Into IT, Selva Ganesh. Selva Ganesh has got 30 years experience within the IT space, helping organizations to adopt technology for their own businesses and improve efficiency in technology, and changing and having impact in everyone's lives. Please clap your hands in joining me with my panel in discussions around the digital economy. Okay, so for now we will take our seats. I will just introduce as I've introduced the speakers, I will give a chance to our speakers to take us through what their organizations have and their capabilities in enabling the digital economy, and we will take the discussions, and after that we will take maybe the questions from the audience. Morning, gentlemen. Morning. Gareth, will you maybe take a brief in telling us about your role in enabling the digital economy in South Africa?
Okay, so what we do with our customers, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. So what we do with our customers is very much what we call the digital hub. So, across organizations and even internally across the government, within private sector, and collaborating between the two. So very much what we do is giving you the ability to very easily and securely share that data between departments, between your own internal stakeholders and external, while still managing the security, the governance, and the visibility of not only the flow of the data, who's using it, what, how quickly, even if you want to monetize it, but the business processes behind it as well, how to optimize that, and make sure that, as you say, we're sharing the data, we're collaborating effectively and efficiently across those organizations.
Thank you, Gareth. Mr. Mkonza, when it comes to Kaya Africa Networks, what are your activities or maybe products and services that you are offering in enabling this digital and inclusive growth?
Well, thank you. The challenge around the digital economy is, in the African context, is that we take digital economy as an imported concept. We have developed an Afrocentric digital economy research program, where we advise our clients on how they go about their digital transformation in the context of an Afrocentric digital economy. What that means is that we focus on municipal digital transformation. At the core of it is connectivity, the networks that bring ordinary people to play in the digital space. But we also understand very well that digital competencies lack in our communities. The outreach in rural areas and townships is not there. So we focus on research as to how best we can bring people from outlying areas into this digital economy. When it comes to how we do that, we then implement our signature projects. Signature project, one of them is based on abstract art. As Africans, we know art comes natural. It's abundant. We sing, we sketch, we do all those things. Our artifacts are all over the world, but not in the continent, and therefore we are not reaping the rewards. When we talk about AI, big data, and so on, we locate it in the context of this massive data which is already there, which has not been tapped, which has not been exploited for its economic imperative in terms of bringing Africans in the real realms of the economy. We also advocate for government to look at building blocks, which makes a holistic digital platform that government must implement. So your programs that support small and innovation programs needs to be refocused. Our interest really is grassroots research and innovation, and our program, therefore, focuses to how best we can do that.
Thank you. Moving on to Mr. Mpo, how is BCX enabling this new economy that we are moving into, e-commerce and any product services or initiatives that you are embarking on within this domain?
All right, thank you very much. First of all, when it comes to big data and using AI, we as BCX have like a multitude of, shall I say, solutions that span across all industries. But importantly, just to have a bit of a joke, this morning as we were waiting to start, if we had used a data analytical tool about GovTech, I would tell you that on Wednesday morning, nobody rocks up, right? Because there are very few people here. But importantly, when you guys go to, let's say, a filling station, and that filling station, all the interoperability and everything that connects there, those are systems that we put in place in terms of how it is that we connect. So when we speak about digital economy, it's about how they all interconnect. If you go to the mining industry, we speak there about how it is that you integrate all their IT and ops so that they can make better decisions. If you do it in education, for instance, I think Bladen Zimande yesterday was speaking about how it is that you need practical examples. When people are at NSFAS, as an example, finish studying a program, and now they're in a job environment, how is it that you link that individual who's now working with the data that already exists in the job market to then say, please pay back your loan because now you can afford it, whereas at NSFAS you couldn't afford it initially. We like making, or rather developing solutions that solve real problems, and we do that in a multitude of ways, and I hope to share some of those experiences with you today. So that's what we do at BCX.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Selva, on Into IT, what are your initiatives currently that are contributing to this digital transformation and inclusive growth for our digital economy?
Thank you, Sepelo. Good morning, everyone. Into IT is a global system integrator, and which has a profound, a very detailed presence in South Africa, because we have a huge investment in South Africa as a country, and as an Africa as well, we have a huge presence as well. And to the topic, digital economy is our core business, I would say. So our own services and offerings and stuff like that is actually towards contributing to the digital economy. So I would broadly put our services in two different brackets. One is in application services and infrastructure services, which is the building block for any digital economy. And how do we innovate? How do we bring new age technologies to these pillars of digital economy is our key offerings. And our customers is actually spread across different verticals, which includes public sector, government, large government organizations, large enterprises. And our key value proposition is to kind of add value to their digital journey. And because every other customer is actually in different part of the journey, and we walk the path with them and to ensure that they have the digital economy maturity, because the whole world is actually talking about that, and South Africa as a country has to kind of quickly tap that maturity happening across the world. And we as a company also contributing towards the journey, and that's our key focus.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen, on this. Just to look at South Africa, maybe whether it's data openness, infrastructure investment, and maybe our development in relation to other countries. There is always that nervy moment, not maybe it's only in South Africa, whereby somebody is working in the till, they are maybe processing their payment, it's either they don't have the card, or the card is declining, or they have to swap 2 or 3 cards, or maybe even drop some few things. It's either you are that person or you are a person behind in the queue within our economy. How far are we from either when you are packing, you're walking, you are pushing your trolley towards the till, it tells you, can you afford this? Do you've got your card with you? And. How far are we? Where are the limitations? Is it our infrastructure? Is it the data openness or data sharing among entities or digital platforms that we need to be? Or whichever. I will just give you one round each, just to maybe give us a comment on that. How far are we as South Africa? What may be the limitations of getting those solutions out there and getting these smaller nervy moments? I know most of the people will get their cards, and I think 1 or 2 have experienced that, or we've seen somebody experience that within our digital economy, because that's the basic example of the economy being moved to digital platforms. Gareth, what will be your view on that?
So I don't think the technology is the challenge, it's more the agreements and the collaboration, all right? So the technology exists, and this is what we do with a lot of customers, to expose those capabilities and data. So the example you cite, you're talking almost like a universal credit overview of being able to take either from one financial institution or multiple, and combine those things to say, maybe it's to an app or directly to some sort of device, what is my current position versus what is, as I'm walking around the store, it could automatically be adding that up for me and saying, how am I going to process this? And I think we were talking earlier about the example of, Amazon stores where you just walk in, take what you want and walk out, and it's all done through smart cameras. So I think the capability exists to do that. We do this with a lot of financial institutions, embedded finance, where they expose their capabilities. And the same could be done with government as well. We've done this very successfully, for instance, in Dubai, where it would take a very long time for certain processes in government because we go across multiple departments. And much like the example you cite, the moment they could each expose those as data, as secure APIs, and combine them, you take something which, example, the birth of a child, the parents would have to take time off work to actually go and spend all the time at the various departments doing paperwork and everything like that. And now it's literally online, seamless all through the departments. And the same could be done, as you say, for financial institutions as well, which we're doing locally.
Okay. So how far are we that from getting there in South Africa? But it's right. Let's move on to Mr. Mkonza. Your view on integrating these solutions and getting the digital economy moving.
Well, I think from our perspective and the kind of work that we do, we really believe on what one would call a digital public infrastructure that would make it possible for everyone who wants to participate in the digital economy to be able to do so. I think as a country, we have moved away from open source as one of an area of focus when it comes to how we become open. The openness is closed by proprietary products, and therefore the development and the participation in the digital economy is then limited. We need open data, all those kinds of standards that will open up the economy, the digital economy, for everyone who wants to do and participate in that economy. I think that is the area where, for example, we would say, government, home affairs, that's where everyone gets registered. When the individual now goes to school, you do not have to capture the data of this individual. It's already there. You need to add on. When you move to the health, you need to add on. So the profile of the individual can be tracked, as the individual interacts with the various service provisions. And in that way, begin to open up, the interaction, the profile, and the understanding of how citizens on their own can participate meaningfully in the economy. So that is our approach.
Thank you, Mr. Mkonza. Mpo, the infrastructure, does it enable us? Do you have the infrastructure to do these fancy things?
So there are two answers to your question. And the first is, it doesn't matter how digitized you go, if you don't have money in the bank, bruh, it's still not going to work, right? Decline is decline, especially the checkers and ShopRite. They'll let you know, right? And then on the second side is that you must be very careful when it comes to the data openness that you speak about. So it is ideal for certain companies. I'll give you an example with Amazon. Amazon will be able to do exactly what you're saying. So Amazon has got stores internationally now that no longer have, or they don't even have tellers. So you can literally just walk in, pick anything you want, and as you do that, it's got like scanners everywhere. Before you walk out, it knows that how much it is that you've already spent, and out you go. So what you're speaking about already exists. The question is, who owns the data? And that's a very important thing, because you find that some companies will use it for good and some can use it for bad. So you need somebody who can advise you, number one, from a data policy perspective, how it is that you can respect data policy. For instance, CETA has got a document that is out right now, which speaks about cloud governance and data governance. So you respect the guardrails of the country first. And then when you're done with that, only then can you get to a situation where you can share data amongst people. But then security first, and ensure that the systems that you have in place also don't infringe on the human rights or the POPIA Act. And POPIA is something that we respect in country. So when we do our data maturity, we do it on 3 levels. There's data management, then you get to data engineering, and then the really sexy stuff comes through in AI and ops, where you make that data really sing. So there are 3 levels of those, and anybody going through the data value journey can come to BCX and we can assist with that. So, yeah. But you must have money.
Thank you. Selva, and just maybe also your view on this. I think you've mentioned ITRIs all over the world in terms of different countries where you are providing systems integration solutions. Where we are as maybe South Africa, if you compare us, and how far are we from these small solutions?
Well, I'll start from this data openness point, right? Data openness is actually a bit tricky, right? Because as you know, data is more expensive than a currency, right? Using a data, actually you can manage multiple information, because many of the companies are selling data to ensure that how do we monetize the data. I'll give an example, right? So when you go for the retail shops or go for any shopping, right, you are exposing your information. So you are basically exposing your behavior to the retailers, to the banking customers and stuff like that. And that can be used for multiple things. It can be used for targeted marketing, ensuring that right services are coming to the consumers. So bottom line is, data is very, very expensive. So how do we properly use the data is very, very key, number one. Number two is how the government is actually streamlining data usage. That's very key. right? Of course, every other government is actually kind of banging their head to kind of ensure that there is actually data is properly managed, and there is no data leakage or misusage of data and stuff like that. There are multiple experts are actually working on ensuring that how the data is properly managed. So second is that, and third is that from a South Africa context, South Africa is well advanced from using this or using the digital world quite effectively. Even the recent COVID-19 debacle that every other country has faced, we as a country has effectively used AI and machine learning and also data quite effectively. Basically in this health record system to ensure that the COVID-19 related information is going to the citizens properly or to the health officials properly, and how the citizens are accessing those information, how the necessary basic health facilities are actually reaching to the needed people quite effectively. Those information are South Africa managed quite effectively. So from that standpoint, developing countries are really picking up, but there are a lot of work has to be done in that area for sure.
Thank you, Selva. I would like to invite maybe some questions from the audience. Can we have the participation of the audience, maybe one or two questions are relating to this digital economy? Sami? Cool.
Thank you very much to the panel members. I have a question for Garrett. The matter of sharing data is very important. I am with the Department of Agriculture, and I just want to know, where is the data residing? Your services, are you providing them on-prem, or do I have to be on your cloud? And then, Mr. Mkonza, your inputs is just a comment to say I appreciate your input. Basically, I appreciate everybody's input. But Mr. Mkonza, I just want to know, where is the role of the stakeholders? In all your projects or efforts, are you involving them so that your solutions are bottom up? Thank you.
Thank you. Sabs, I think before we continue, we only really have 5 minutes, so shall we get those questions going, and then I'll take one more hand from the floor, and then we need to wrap it up.
Okay, thank you. You can go.
So as to where the data resides with our solutions, so our solutions are fully hybrid. So we work with the customer to determine what works for them, both from a technology point of view, but also from a governance and compliance perspective. So our solutions can run fully on-premise, they can run fully in the cloud, or they can run hybrid, and again, private or public cloud. So we do obviously take that into account, as well as the solution manages things like the policies, the compliance. So you can say, based on the type of data as well that you're sharing, certain types of data, it's fine if they can be shared to different types of stakeholders or to different areas, but other data is very protected. So as an example, we work with government customers, but we also work with the banks, we work with healthcare providers. And as you know, different layers of data can be subject to different regulations and compliance to heavier levels of that. So our solutions have all that built in to really help you with that, to say, this can be shared across department, certain details cannot, or permanently obfuscated or even blocked, to control that. And then the residency of the data as well, taking into account the various different acts. So depending on who you're dealing with, whether it's POPEA, whether it's government regulations, or whether it's even international trading, like with foreign affairs and things like that, you might be subject to GDPR or other legislations as well, which are all then taken into account with that in the projects we do as well.
Thank you.
Yes, we've got a question here.
Thank you very much, Program Director. My name is Utobeka Buswana. I am from NMISA. My point really, Program Director, is not directed to any of the panelists, but rather to the organizers. Since yesterday, I have observed that the panelists, the panel is male heavy. And how do we then drive transformation? How do we drive transformation and inclusivity? And this picture, I think we need to go back and interrogate what it says to us. Does it then mean that there are no women who can be able to contribute meaningfully to GovTech? Or, I think, let me just stop there, but something needs to give. Something's got to give. Thanks, Program Director.
I think that's quite a taking to the organizers. At least I'm representing you on stage. I think that's the only time we have Sabs. Maybe if you could wrap it up and then we'll move on to the next panel discussion.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think, yeah, that will be addressed. I'm sure the next moderator will be very representative in terms of the participation. Last year, I think we even had a session talking about women in IT, but I'll also pass the word to the organizers. Gentlemen, thanks a lot for your contribution on this panel. I think the discussion is always ongoing, and also to the participants, I think looking at digital economy and digital solutions, social media, let's keep the discussions going, and please feel free to engage with any of the panel members relating to this topic. Thank you very much.
And please come by our stands.
Thank you so much. Please, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our first set of panelists for today. I found the last comment quite apt because the next speaker is indeed female. So I was like, great timing for that. I think you have a really valid point in terms of, not just representation, but what is the narrative that we're putting out there? What are the optics even that we're putting out there, even for the younger generation, that, the young girls who want to get into technology, science, innovation, and the likes, because that's where it's headed. I am quite pleased to call somebody on stage who is incredibly super smart. I'm not making this up. She's really, really super smart. She's also received several awards, including L'Oreal and UNESCO. And just on the point of how representation is actually taken out internationally, it's important for us as South Africa to start the transformation for ourselves, because globally they are actually recognizing more and more women in technology. I mean, the next speaker was awarded by UNESCO and L'Oreal, for being within this space. She is an associate professor and serves as deputy director at the Institute for Intelligent Systems at the University of Johannesburg. She will be speaking to us about the fact that the time has come for a constitutional convention for AI. So they believe that we need an imbizo for AI. If you're in the crowd and you're having a conversation, please note that we are able to hear the feedback, which means that everybody else that's online is not hearing us clearly. So if I could just ask all those that are to my right here on stage, if we could please just keep the noise levels down, it would be much appreciated. Thank you so much. She believes that we need to proactively code principles that will steer the transformative technologies towards justice, empowerment, and human flourishing. So please help me warmly welcome, to represent the women and the females on stage, none other than Prof. Mpho Primus. I think you can do better than that for her, please. You can just pull this down to yourself and you can speak on there if you want to.
Perfect. I have slides.
Yeah, that's it. If the tech team can please help me with her slides so that I can make sure. There we go. Are you comfortable? Can I let you go?
Then not first, yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
Fantastic.
Now good. I'm a bit challenged by height, but so I'm going to bring this up. So, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed government officials, all protocols observed, and everyone in this room, I Quite privileged and honored to be here today. And thank you for embarking on this journey with me. So in the next 20 minutes, we're going to go through a journey together where we will talk about how technology transforms, not just the ability, our society in the global world, in the global south, and specifically in South Africa, both in the rural and urban areas. Now, what we will go through is that you will see the landscape of our country and where we are, and how we've been using technology, and the need for us to now sit down and talk about how we regulate those systems. Now, for instance, you just don't build a car and say it's a car and then deploy it to the streets, right? There are laws that need to be followed in order for it to be classified safe for people to drive it. And the same should be done with this technology because they are now a part of our everyday life. Now, our country is well known for its very majestic landscapes. We are quite well known for our ability to adapt based on our very, very significant history. Now, we also cannot shy away from our recent challenges. We have huge gap in terms of equality. We have poverty. We also have a problem with employment. Now, this is something we cannot run away from. And through this, we now see conversations around how AI, basically artificial intelligence, and its associated technologies can be used to actually bridge these gaps and alleviate poverty. Now, having said this, in this journey what we're going to go about today, we will talk about how this is being done across our provinces and the world and Africa, where we are in the laws, and what this convention or imbizo should look like, and what frameworks we need to put into place. Now, in terms of fintech, right? Fintech has been positioned, as one of the technologies driven by AI and its associated tools and techniques that can actually bridge the digital divide, bridge, the divide by banking and including the previously disadvantaged, right? And we see this. South Africa is well known for its very great banking systems, both digital banking systems and mobile payment platforms. In terms of healthcare, we saw this is the first pandemic that we've had in the world where AI was at its advanced stages, and AI actually helped in pandemic response and outbreak prediction, right, during the COVID pandemic. Now, how our response was shaped in response to COVID, other than the other pandemics, was actually regulated by AI, right? We could now predict where the next outbreak is. We could predict the hotspots. We could also now make decisive decisions and informed decisions as to how we're going to, deal with that pandemic. Now, we also see telemedicine in rural areas having taken fold. Also, this has been pushed by the pandemic, where people don't have to travel long distances, but can actually do video calls and telephones with their doctors to kind of get medical help over virtual lines. Now, the problem here is that a study that was done actually by UKZN has shown that a lot of doctors, even in this province, make use of telemedicine. However, they're not aware that they are using telemedicine. They do say, yeah, we do WhatsApp. Yes, we talk over video, over Zoom with our patients, but it's not really telemedicine. Now, this is where the problem comes in. If they are doing telemedicine or communicating with patients via these AI tools, what about the privacy? Where's the data sitting? Right? Who is regulating? If they're saying they talk amongst each other even regarding their patients to say, okay, this patient you dealt with, they're here today, what is the problem? What regulations should be put in place in safeguarding the ethics around telemedicine? It's already happening, we cannot shy away from it, even in South Africa. In terms of sustainable agriculture, we talk about food security a lot. We see a lot of uptake in precision farming, particularly in the Western Cape. It's not really uptaking a lot in other areas, but it's already happening. We also see climate resilience, particularly if you look at Bangladesh. Bangladesh has a strategy that says in 2034, they want to go 40% into solar power. They already started incorporating the rural areas with solar power in terms of putting them into the electrical grid. How does then South Africa deal with climate resilience? How do we deal with load shedding and AI? These are the tools that we have. We now also see a lot of involvement amongst, civilian organization, particularly in the Johannesburg region. You have Digify Africa that deals with skills development. You have PICTA organizations, these are NPOs that deals with skills development, bringing those who are marginalized and excluded with skills and other tools that can be helped. So this is to illustrate that there's a good side of AI. We cannot run away from it. It's already being employed in our society. However, as I said, even in that employment of these technologies, there is no regulation as to how people should actually use the technologies. Now, I will take you through a story. We know, as you know, we are quite pioneers of the banking sector. We've seen the engagement and the collaboration between our banking sector and government using the Mzansi account. We saw the uptake in actually bringing those who are unbanked in to become banked. We saw again with the introduction of cards for SASSA recipient. Over a couple of years, we had 100% uptake of those cards amongst the SASSA recipients. So this is great. People don't have to queue long lines to get their money. They can just walk into an ATM branch and actually get their money. Now the problem here is data is being generated. So who owns this data, right? And whoever owns the data can do whatever they want with the data, right? Now one thing comes in. Now people are being pushed to buy SMS or on the mobile platform airtime. So if I am getting 350 from the government, and then I'm using a mobile application on a platform, and the first thing I get is, you can get funeral cover for R4.99, right? It's 5 rands. It's not a lot of money in my head, but from 355 rand is out. Another push comes in, you can loan, payday, instant short-term loan, 50 rands, based on my spending. Remember, the data analytics tells the platform how I bank. Another 50 rand loan, interest rate, no one regulates it. It can be 500%, right? You take 50 rand, how much you pay back is not regulated. It's on a mobile platform. I take it. Another one comes in, airtime, advance. Another one comes in, electricity on loan. All this are not illegal, but are they ethical? Right? Bearing in mind that the people who are getting access to the services, this mobile platform, are typically, if you look at M-Pesa, these are the lower LSMs, not very digitally literate or financial literate, right? Push notification, you press 1, you get your airtime. You don't read the terms and conditions, you don't know the interest rate. So people are now taking dividends out of the poor. People are getting profits outside the poor. So now who is the solution that was supposed to be for digital inclusion? Who is now benefiting from it? Is it the same intended recipients? Now they're included into the banking setup, but they're being exploited. Is it legal? For sure, depending on which country you are. But is it ethical? Is a question. If I give you a car that has failed some crash tests and you drive it and you fail, it fails the brakes, the law says you can sue the manufacturer, no? It can be recalled. Certain green emissions, they can be recalled. Someone is accountable. People being exploited with this digital technologies, who's accountable? Who is being hauled back to the coals? So this is why this conversation today and why this conversation, this convention for the past 3 days is quite important. And this is what we call the duality of AI. Every time there's good, there's also all bad. And the bad happens because there's a gray area, there's a muddy area. Particularly in our country, we are quite advanced. We see it. You know, we see now SMMEs are now tapping into AI technologies to kind of tap into new markets, get funding and all these things. But the dark side of AI is the gray and unknown areas where now all those big techos can now come and tap in. Now, how do we actually regulate and then put them back into place? So what should we have and why is it new? Now, I'm well aware, we are all aware now, we had a presidential report on 4IR, right? And from this report, we had the National AI Institute. And this is not a novel thing, right? The EU a draft white paper on how to do ethical and trustworthy AI. Estonia is known as the more advanced in terms of data governance and AI. They had a strategy that started around, the 2019, 2020. Singapore, Finland, the AU is also about to come up with their own white paper. But then what is South Africa doing? We have the 4IR report, we have the white paper. Who is actually supposed to come and bring us to place, right? And this is why we need this Imbiza to say, we have civil participation, we have the public sector, we have the private sector. How do all the sectors come in to put in the guardrails in terms of the ethics of AI? And we need the guardrails. We need for this car to not go over the cliff. And why should we actually need this car to not go over the cliff? Number one, we need to make sure whatever is being deployed into our communities is fair, and it does not discriminate, and it's not biased. Now, we've seen bias a lot of times, particularly, if you look at the EUS, right, because they're quite advanced with that data. We saw how the data, the systems that were deployed by their policing were actually biased against, the black race based on the data that was fed into it, right? So this is one thing that we need to ensure. We need to ensure that it's not biased and it's fair for everyone. We need to make sure that they empower communities that they're deployed into. There are some tools that are nice to have, but if they do not speak to the society that we have, then they don't need to be deployed into our communities. We need to understand, when I started, I said we need to understand that we have a country that has a very huge digital divide. You need to think when you deploy technology how much an average South African has to work to afford a gigabyte of data. If you are going to claim that this is for the public and your platform or your portal or your website or your app is data intensive, then it really does not speak to who it's intended to. If the government with the digital strategy deploys applications or websites that are not zero-rated, that means people who cannot afford to buy a megabyte of data cannot access the services. And therefore, that is not fair. And if they cannot access the services, that means someone has to access it for them. And this is where now you have a middleman with people accessing public sector services. If I need to actually book online to get a service form that should be actually quite free, basically, and it's on a portal that is not zero-rated, then I need someone to do it for me. And that person can say, well, it's 20 rands for me to do it for you. Now we're opening up our public to actual exploitation. Another thing is transparency. Now, this is quite important. Every time big tech speaks, they always claim, well, it's a black box. We don't know how these algorithms work. They are unsupervised or they are supervised. Oh, okay, there was a glitch. We shut it down a bit. We'll try to figure out what it happens. We saw it on Facebook. Oh, the algorithms were talking to each other. We could not understand the language because they're unsupervised, and therefore we need to shut it down, right? Imagine a car manufacturer saying, well, I'm not sure why the brakes failed, but they failed anyway, but ASCII's all good. The next batch will try to figure it out. That cannot work. We need to understand these algorithms and how they work. This black box needs to be explained. Then accountability becomes a problem, right? Those who actually manage, create, and deploy the systems need to be accountable. If they take the shine when everything goes good, then they need to be accountable when things go bad. That is basically the case. And at this point, we have seen cases. We have seen Facebook being hauled to the court in the EU. We have seen them being hauled to the court in the US. But no one asks, right? Why is Facebook zero-rated in Africa? Why are people getting 200? What is Facebook? No one is asking this, and no one is actually asking Facebook. And why in Africa? Why are you not giving them? Why don't Americans also need 200 megabytes free? Who is actually safeguarding our data? Why are we being overmined? This we also need to think about. Privacy. Now, luckily for South Africa, the POPIA Act is there and it can be built upon, but it is quite important when you deal with people's data. Now, we all know we don't read when we download softwares. Now, around 5 years back, something interesting came out, right? And it was an overnight application. People were happy. It came out, people were doing facial recognition that can trace how you look like as you age projection. It was a hit, and it went out of circulation within 48 hours. But it was exciting. But the question is, why would a company why would I want to know how I look like at 90? I want to know what I look like at 90. But all that projection, who is using that data? Where is the data being stored? And why the hype 48 hours? Isn't it a nice application to have for a government that never forget your crimes? So we can train our models? So we know 50 years from now on what you look like if you pass by the traffic light. But our public is not educated. Computer science would never. Guardrails need to be put in place. Lastly, safety. Again, the car scenario. The car crash, someone is accountable, it cannot crash. Even self-driving cars, we need to be able to override them, right? We are seeing these machines being deployed in critical missions. We're seeing self-driving cars. So they need to pass a safety test. The EU, the proposed draft paper, actually does this by putting in a risk. High-risk AI systems out of the window. So the EU is saying we are not allowing self-driving cars that cannot be overwritten. Now, where are we in South Africa? How are we going to deal? How do we define what is high risk and low risk? Considering the fact that we don't even develop our own systems, we actually get them from the global north, come here and tweak it and then put it out there. Now, Tammy has just told me I have 5 minutes left. Having said all this, I hope that the past few minutes that I've been here have kind of sparked a thought in your mind and has made it a bit clearer that having a convention around AI and common ground and safeguards, right, ethical safeguard, is not really now just a nice to have idea or a nice to have framework or a framework that we can sit down for 2 months and write down and put it away as a tick box. But it has become now more than ever quite important that we put all these frameworks, all these presidential reports, put all the institutes that are here and actually put our minds together to come with a way to safeguard our country, our society, and ourselves from what these transformative technologies will bring in and have already brought into our lives.
Thank you so much, Prof. Look, we do have time for maybe 2 quick questions for you, because I know you like to do the question thing. Do we have any questions in the audience? Oh. Fantastic. Renee, do we have any questions at the back? So I'm not forgetting the audience at the back. We don't. Okay. I've got 2 already, so I'll take the 2 at the front. But please note that my colleague over there will also, Renee, maybe wave your hand. Throughout the sessions, if you do have questions at the back, we haven't forgotten about you. So you can feel free to also raise your hands at the back. Pleasure.
Good morning. My name is Nenna. I come from the internet. I wanted to say thank you, Doc, for that wonderful presentation. 2 things. I worked about 2-3 years ago with Smart Africa on the Africa AI blueprint. And our chair was South Africa. So I had the impression that South Africa was actually leading on the continental level on AI principles and ethics. But I didn't see that Africa AI blueprint on your presentation. My question is, how do we balance national constitutional conventions and global ethical tech policies? Because she mentioned the types of platforms, I don't want to mention names, but we know that when we're speaking AI and tech policy in general, there are no physical boundaries. So my question is, how do we see this national convention in South Africa interfacing with global conventions at the UN or AU and other levels? I'm not South African. Thank you.
Thank you. And I found that quite interesting that you didn't even go to South African, then regional, then global. You went straight South Africa global. Okay, great. Do you want to take that, Prof?
Please, yes. Okay, so thank you for the question. Yes, you're right. Number one, we do lead in terms of our policies. Like I say, we do have data governance and privacy laws in South Africa. We are one of want to have a national AI hub, and we are the second to have it. So in terms of us being advanced, the whole continent is a bit now reactive in terms of AI, and we need to start being proactive. We are there, but the tech is now there, right? So therefore we need to catch up to it. In terms of following the blueprint, we already have a blueprint from the UN. The UN already has an AI framework. The AU is about to publish, but I think you can get some guidelines on it. I think they started around 2019, the AU. So the framework is there, and everything that's been proposed, even if you read the presidential FIR report and the recommendations on the report, do actually align with the global standards, right? And all the standards actually touch on what I've just said: justice, privacy, safety, fairness, and inclusion. In each and every country, from Estonia to Germany to France to Rwanda to Kenya to South Africa. So they all have the same pillars and they don't override each other.
Okay. We've got a question here.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, Prof. I'm Esimo Khonyana. I'm the country manager for SAS South Africa. We are an American-based big data, AI, as well as machine learning organization. As a business person, what I've seen so far within the African context is we are moving forward with technology, we're trying to catch up. However, there are systems that are lagging behind, such as our legal system, the judicial system, as well as the psychosocial system. What I mean by that is the institutes such as yours, the IIS, you're progressing, teaching, producing PhDs, for example. However, you also have a legal department at UJ. Those lawyers are learning old legal systems from the Roman era, but they're not learning about AI, how to negotiate such contracts, how to protect the interests of the organizations within our country, also how to protect our traditionally based laws, because we've got laws on our tradition, right? How do they fight for that idea of AI? Does the psychologist deal with challenges that come out of that era? I just wanted to hear your thought on that and how we can help these non-technical skills that we need so much in business as well as in everyday life to catch up with AI and all of these advancements.
Prof, I've got somebody with a burning question. So I'm going to ask this last person, this is the last question we could take, to also ask, and then you answer both the questions and then wrap up. Then we're done.
Thank you so much, Prof, for the insightful presentation. My name is Vuyoka Zimenye. I am from the National Housing Finance Corporation, which is an entity that is responsible for social housing funding in the human settlement space. So my question is, Prof, in line with the theme of the conference that indicates that we are transforming digitally and inclusive growth, and from the powerful presentation that you have given us, Prof, what is the government of our country doing to educate, to empower, to transform? Now that we have all this information, we have all the reports, we have all the research, outcomes and the recommendations, to ensure that we are empowering the citizens of our country, to ensure that we are improving the service delivery, to ensure that we are delivering in the space of energy. We've got a crisis this morning only, Prof. it was indicated that we are moving our country to levels to stage 6 of electricity load shedding. And what is it that our country or the government of our country is doing to ensure that we are using the transformative AI power in order to ensure that we are delivering the services effectively to our country? Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. I think that question might be a bit tough for you to answer because you're not the government. So I'm not going to ask you to answer that one. Can I ask you to maybe just deal with the legalities and how do we get all the other sectors to then also catch up in order for them to be able to deliver as swiftly within the technological spaces? So the support structures, the legal, the communications, we can continue. Yes. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, but I'm not, I mean, as a scholar, I cannot shy away from answering that question because I would not be doing justice to my scholarship as a professor. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great. Fantastic.
As you pointedly corrected, I am not government, but my job as a government employee is to research and then give insights from my research. And you're right, we have all these white papers and we write a lot of white papers, but what is missing, and like I said, Estonia literally has a very good success story because they started small. They said, okay, AI is coming, we need to employ it, and then what can we do with it? And then they started with use cases, right? Their first use case was, okay, we have unemployment, and unemployment people get UIF in Estonia. So how about we link UIF and job posting? So we know what skills you have, we know your CV, you get money from us. So every time there's a job posting, immediately these algorithms will kind of recommend you to go look for a job there and apply for a job, or even apply for a job on your behalf. Simple use case. That was the burning issue. They did it as one of the first 3 use cases. And this could be also sort of to say, okay, we have AI, we have invested in this National AI Institute. It's an investment, no? Money has been spent for it. Give this institute to say, okay, what is our biggest pain point? Electricity. We have a problem, our grids are overloaded. How do we make smarter decisions in terms of load shedding? Mm-hmm. How do we not overpower the grid? Mm-hmm. So have use cases that can actually speak to where you want to go in the future. But you need a long-term strategy. Mm-hmm. See, this is the thing. You cannot have a 6-month strategy, right? You need 5 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. Research gives you output after 3 years. As a researcher, I sit down, and then after 3 years, I can see where we're going at initial stages. And also, we need to understand our country. You do not deploy things people never ask for. There's what we call technology acceptance and technology adoption. And South Africans, in terms of those two, we don't really adopt tech that much. Look at the Mzansi account. People got the Mzansi account, but half of them, by the end of the year, literally just use it, withdraw all the money, and never transact again. The same with SASA cards. People have the cards, they just withdraw the money at the same time and then get over it. So we need to understand our society. And to Essie's point, in terms of the legal framework, we need to upskill. This is a new era, right? And we need, South Africa is known to be quite adaptable people, and we need to upskill. I do know in terms of the legal field, there are companies, particularly in the Western Cape, that are now starting to realize and get training and offer training to other legal advisors in terms of AI and how to kind of navigate the legalities or the gray areas of AI. Now, I'm around for the whole day, so I can chat. Tammy wants me off the stage, but thank you.
I don't want you off the stage. We've just run out of time, Prof. I think some of the points that were made there were quite valid, and we're obviously going to touch through and break them down as well as we go throughout the day. You just said something now, Prof, that I want to expand on, that I found quite interesting. We need to know our country and what its needs are. We can see all the frameworks in the world, but the point is we are not at those places, what works for them may not work for us. And so it is imperative that we listen on. I know the United Nations is actually having their General Assembly that's starting from next week, Monday. I've been fortunate enough to be asked to go there and listen to some of the conversations and moderate some of the conversations. But it's so interesting that we want to take stuff that's been spoken about in New York and implemented when it actually doesn't work in Africa. So I think that's a very, very valid point that you're making about understanding. We then also spoke about the collaborative ecosystems that we require, which is really going to lead us now into the next conversation, is this collaborative ecosystem that we require. How do we start to build it? And not just talk collaboration. What is collaboration? Because a lot of times we speak about these jargoned words, but we don't know how to implement them. They just become jargon. So how does public-private partnerships work for us to advance government self-services solutions? To moderate this conversation, I have the privilege of inviting another female moderator, and she is a social entrepreneur and technology executive with over 20 years experience. I'm not giving anybody's age. This is what the bio says. With over 20 years of diverse industry experience in Africa and globally. She is the founder of Limit Breakers Global Foundation. And of course, she then looks after, dedicated at making a difference for economic empowerment and has worked with a number of forums locally and globally. So please help me warmly welcome on stage Ms. Noki Ndlovu. Keep the claps going until she's like up here. Just keep it going. Thank you. Welcome.
All right, are we here? Did we survive last night? I saw some people moving to my figures all and they were jiggering, hey? Are we here? Technology and business people and government, are you here? All right, so thank you so much to our program director. Let's get this going, guys. So I would like to welcome my esteemed panelist on stage, very powerful panel on stage, so that we can get this going. Public-private partnership, building collaborative ecosystem. It's going to be very interesting. So we have Mr. Zaid Abubakar, chairperson of GTalk. Mr. Zaid Abubakar brings over 20 years of IT experience. So we've got 2 decades here, the mature group like myself. To his role as chairperson of GTalk, his career spans various sectors, including finance, IT, and the public sector, with a strong technical foundation in IT systems. Zaid has worked on numerous enterprise-scale projects, holding positions such as technical engineer, technical. In his current capacity as Chief Director, he is responsible for governance strategy and ICT oversight across government. Mr. Abubakar on stage.
To take very serious action. We are not afraid to cut off water supply if needs be. We are going to cut it because that service is not for free. That water comes from our reticulation system. And if needs be, what we will do, we'll provide 5-liter water, those bottles to those businesses so that they can be able to feel the pinch.
Besides the non-payment of services, the Metro says it's also tackling incidents of meter tampering and illegal electricity connections. According to the municipality, attempts to negotiate with the defaulters proved futile.
Honest businessmen or honest businesswomen come to a municipality when they are having issues. But when you go months on end, even years on end, without making payments, and you are happy that you are just scaling through, that shows a lack of integrity with the people in which we've entrusted with our services that we render.
The Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber say it is critical that ratepayers pay their bills and the municipality must collect its revenue.
Should there be instances of inaccurate billing or readings, these need to be addressed as well. We remain committed to maintaining open communication channels with the municipality and collaborating to serve the best interests of Nelson Mandela Bay and to save much needed jobs.
The municipality found that some of the defaulters last made a payment 5 years ago, while they are still operating today. SABC News in Gqeberha.
Well, the Democratic Alliance's court case against the National Energy Regulator of South Africa over its 31.4% national electricity tariff hike will be heard today. The party is also challenging load shedding in its joint application before the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria.
Senior counsel Ngwako Mayeneki, representing government, says the DA is presenting evidence based on specific events. Mayeneki says these events are as a result of load shedding. He says the president has acknowledged the impact that load shedding has on human rights and has therefore appointed the Minister of Electricity to coordinate the entities responsible for the implementation of the energy plan.
And we submit that it cannot be a substitute for the failure by the applicants to plead a case based on specific facts related to each event that it claims was a direct cause of the energy crisis. A review of administrative action rests upon the identification of a particular decision, not a vague sense of injustice.
The Democratic Alliance says Eskom must stop shifting the blame and take responsibility. Senior counsel Anton Katz, representing the DA, says Eskom must work hand in hand with all state organs to ensure the end of load shedding. He says it's no use pointing a finger at the next person because the effects continue to be felt by all citizens of the country.
It doesn't help for Eskom to say, we've done what's reasonable for us, but unfortunately the municipality down there, they're delinquent, therefore don't point a finger at us. Eskom, and this is from the SCA, has a duty, NERSA has a duty, the President, ministers have a duty to assist all
we could self-service ourselves. We already know that some government entities are already implementing this, and we can see that it is making our lives easier. In the age of rapid digital transformation, seamless self-service solutions have emerged as a cornerstone of efficient, transparent, and accountable governance. Because with that, you are able to get data, you're able to see numbers, and you're able to see how government entities are performing. The evolution of these solutions, however, necessitates a synergy between the dynamism of the private sector and the strategic orientation of the public sector. This panel seeks to delve into the potential of public-private partnerships as a catalyst for creation of an advanced government self-service solutions. By emerging the best of both worlds, we can imagine and realize a future where citizen-centric services are accessible and meet the high standards expected in a digital age. Thank you. So I'm going to go and sit down and I'll start to unpack, ask the panel to unpack this. Welcome, Mr. Abubakar, just on time, because I have the first person of Cheeto. Thank you.
Thanks for that question. I think, so certainly I think we've started to see more and more departments create these self-service online solutions. I think the latest one that colleagues might be familiar with is the eNatus, and the ability to get your driver's license, your car license renewed fairly quickly, delivered within a few days. And it's cheap, it's effective. So I think, and if we go back to maybe some of the trailblazers in terms of SARS, I'm fine.
Hello? Is there someone talking? Hello? I'm hearing sounds and somebody talking. Thank you. Are you also hearing this?
Yeah, I heard some. That's fine.
Sure.
So,
You know what I'm suggesting, ne?
We can hear you guys.
You know what I'm suggesting?
Yeah. We can hear you.
I'd love to hear the suggestion.
We like to hear the suggestion.
Get everybody back.
We want to hear the suggestion.
It's going to be difficult, right?
Okay, guys.
Best that we go straight through the panels and then go into.
Okay. All right, continue.
No, thanks.
Sure.
So I think certainly SARS was a trailblazer in terms of making some of these solutions available. But
Yeah.
we're starting to see other departments catch up. I think the difficulty is that we are still seeing it in the individual departments.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing the benefit of some of that experience and learnings then start to assist all of the departments. So while there's progress, I don't think anybody can sit here and say that it's sufficient.
Yeah.
And we are where we need to be. But certainly the examples of what has been done currently should serve as an inspiration to say it is possible in government, it is possible in the difficult sectors like the transport sector.
Yeah.
Lots of transactions, lots of difficulty in terms of dealing with fraud and dealing with issues of connectivity and getting bandwidth out there. So it's possible in those really difficult services. And I think it's an inspiration for us all to be able to look at those examples. And the difficult work now is about how do we take it to all departments? How do we take those learnings and make them transversal?
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you mentioned the impact of e-NATIS and even with SARS, we are able to see it every day. And you've just put challenges of how do we take this to the rest of the government. We have Mr. Mahashau, who looks after the strategy and innovation of CETA. Do you want to perhaps touch on how we can take the rest of public partnerships services and encourage innovation for the rest of the government, or if there are existing or if there are any that are in the pipeline to take these public partnership and innovation to be meaningful for the public?
Yeah, so if you look at South Africa in general and the world, there's a lot of solutions that we can reuse within South Africa. And there's a lot of capabilities that most of our partners in the making and those that we've already signed up have got. So why should we reinvent the wheel? We've got telcos in South Africa, we've got network companies in South Africa that already have solutions that can connect our government departments as well as our citizens to be able to enable them to consume these government services. Some of them also have solutions already developed that can just be reused or customized for South African government and reused. So the key is we need to partner with those ones within the ambits of the law and ensure that together we can customize those particular solutions for South Africa. That will actually ensure that we digitalize South Africa very quickly instead of having to start everything from scratch, because it has already been done somewhere else. As Zaida said, some of the solutions are common across government departments, so if you do one in a pilot phase, it will be much easier to roll it out to the whole of government where it is needed, and it becomes much easier and more effective. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mahashau, are you able to just give us examples of just maybe one or two of those existing services for, that can be customized or enhanced where we don't have to reinvent the wheel?
Yes. I'll give you an example of something that was spoken about yesterday, the Z83 form.
Yeah.
There's already a number of...
В Корее есть пословица: одежда хороша новая, а друг старый.
조선에서는 다음과 같은 속담이 있습니다. 옷은 새 옷이 좋고 사람은 옛 사람이 좋습니다.
А у нас в народе говорят: старый друг лучше нового друга.
러시아는 비슷한 속담이 있습니다. 새로운 친구 2명보다는 옛 친구 1명이 좋다.
Эти народные мудрости в полной мере применимы к современным отношениям между нашими странами.
이와 같은 속담들이 우리 두 나라 사이의 오늘 그 관계를 잘 반영하고 있습니다.
Хочу предложить тост за дальнейшее укрепление дружбы и сотрудничества между нашими странами, между Российской Федерацией и Корейской Народно-Демократической Республикой.
러시아 연방과 조선민주인민공화국 상무관계 발전을 위하여
За благополучие и процветание наших народов.
우리 두 나라 인민들이 행복과 복리를 위하여
За здоровье товарища председателя и всех присутствующих.
존경하는 조선민주인민공화국 국무위원장 동지
만에 러시아 연방을 다시 방문해서 푸틴 대통령과 상봉하고 이처럼 동지적 우위가 정이 넘치는 뜻깊은 자리를 함께 하게 된 것을 대단히 기쁘게 생각합니다.
Весьма рад, что мне вновь через 4 года 5 месяцев довелось побывать с визитом в Российской Федерации, провести встречу с президентом Путиным, а сейчас собрались на этом знаменательном месте, переполненном чувством искренней товарищеской дружбы.
나는 먼저 우리를 친절히 초청해주고 국가의 사업 전반을 영도하는 바쁨 속에서도 온갖 성의를 다해서 환대해주고 있는 푸틴 동지에게 충심으로 되는 사의를 표합니다.
Прежде всего, позвольте мне выразить вам, товарищ Путин, искреннюю признательность за то, что вы любезно пригласили нас, несмотря на занятость и руководство всеми делами государства, от всей души оказывайте нам радушное гостеприимство.
우리 러시아 방문을 성과적으로 보장하기 위해 많은 수고를 하고 있는 중앙과 운동의 관계부문 인사들에게도 감사를 드립니다.
А также выражаю благодарность лицам из Центра и Дальневосточных регионов, которые прилагали большие усилия для успешного проведения нашего визита в Россию.
이 자리를 빌어서 강력한 러시아를 건설하며 국가의 전략적 이익을 굳건히 수호하기 위한 역사적 위협 수행에 떨쳐나선 전체 러시아 인민에게 조선 인민의 전투적 경의와 따뜻한 형제적 인사를 전하는 바입니다.
Пользуясь этим случаем, передаю от корейского народа боевую честь, теплый братский привет всему российскому народу, который поднялся за осуществление исторического дела построения сильной России и за надежную защиту стратегических интересов государства.
동지들,
Товарищи,
우리 이번 방문은 국제적으로 진보와 반동, 정의와 불의 사이 대결이 치열하게 벌어지고 자주영향이 공통된 의지와 단결된 힘에 의하여 세계의 다국화가 힘있게 주동되는 시기에 진행되고 있습니다.
Нынешний наш визит проходит в тот период, когда на международной арене ожесточенно разворачивается противоборство между прогрессом и реакцией, справедливостью и несправедливостью, а процесс многополярности мира энергично продвигается благодаря общей воле и сплоченной мощи самостоятельных сил.
방금 나는 푸틴 동지와 조선반도와 유럽의 정치 군사 정세에 대해서 심도 있게 토의했으며 주권적 권리와 안전을 수호하고 지역과 세계의 공고한 평화를 담보하기 위한 투쟁에서 전략 전술적 협동과 지지 연대를 가일층 강화해 나갈 때 대하여 만족한 견해 일치를 보았습니다.
Только что мы с товарищем Путиным углубленно обсудили военно-политическую ситуацию на Корейском полуострове и в Европе и пришли к удовлетворительному единому мнению о дальнейшем укреплении стратегического и тактического взаимодействия, поддержке и солидарности в борьбе за защиту суверенного права, безопасности, за создание гарантий прочного мира как в регионе, так и во всем мире.
우리는 러시아 군대와 인민이 패권과 팽창 야망을 추구하는 악의 무리들을 징벌하고 안정적인 발전 환경을 마련하기 위한 정의의 싸움에서 반드시 위대한 승리를 쟁취하리라고 확신합니다.
Уверены в том, что российская армия и народ непременно одержат великую победу в священной борьбе за наказание с больше зла, претендующего на гегемонию и питающего экспонентскую иллюзию, и за создание стабильной обстановки для развития.
저로 친선협력 관계의 확대 발전은 두 나라 인민들이 이익에 전적으로 부합될 뿐 아니라 자주를 지향하는 현 시대의 요구이기도 합니다.
Расширять и развивать корейско-российские отношения дружбы и сотрудничества – это не только полностью отвечает интересам народов двух стран, но и является требованием современности, стремящейся к самостоятельности.
나는 대통령과 안정적이며 미래지향적인 새시대 조로 관계의 백년 대결을 구축해 나갈 것이며 그 위력으로 두 나라에서의 강국 건설 위협을 강력히 추동하고 진정한 국제적 정의를 실현해 나갈 것입니다.
perspective, it's something that we're trying to drive very hard to say to departments, don't just focus on the technology, but focus on what it is that your citizens need and require and where they are and all of those kinds of matters.
Sure, thank you. Sure. And it's interesting that you're talking about research. We've got Ati, who is an entrepreneur who's done her research on the challenges that are there, and she's designed an app. And after Ati would give us her input and how she came up with the app that she's designed, I'll come to Mr. Mojalifa to give us what does the Department of Small Businesses enable, these research startups that want to service the public, and that's why we are having, this panel, the public-private partnership. So, Ati, over to you, just to take us through the research and the impact of the app.
I'm a young innovator in the tech space, and I created an application and software to help children with mathematics. So that's primary as well as high school kids. Everyone who's here in the tech space is talking about, the pipeline for data analysts, for computer science, tech engineers. All of those professions actually need mathematics at the heart of it.
Absolutely.
So my passion as an actuarial specialist was to create something that can make mathematics accessible to all children across the world. So my startup was founded here in South Africa, but it was one of the only African products that was scalable and was MVP'd in the UK, specifically in Scotland. So essentially there's a lot of challenges when it comes to growing and scaling a startup, especially in South Africa. Data challenges being one of them, and support in terms of finances, because we have a lot of businesses that are in the early stage. However, when we go to DFIs or we go to other institutional investors, they've got lots of requirements in order to get funding to scale up your businesses, especially if you're young, if you're under the age of 35 with not much of a track record. So there's a lot of challenges as well. However, there's a lot of opportunity, so we create innovations, and I felt that my startup was actually embraced more by the when we companies will be like, oh, we use this from Microsoft, we use this from, another tech Silicon Valley business. And so why is that? So why aren't we, creating a very big ecosystem to actually support innovations that are started by young people?
Thank you so much. And I think Mr. Mojalifa is here to plug in. That's really valid, Ati, that your startup and your app was more recognized outside the country. And the theme of this GovTech is platform economy, and that we need to harvest our own solutions so that we can export our solutions outside. But the private partnership conversation is starting right now, and Mr. Mojalifa Mahoto will probably tell us what are the opportunities and how you can plug in where maybe you can scale this with the Department of Education partnering with small businesses, and you look at a commercially viable product. But again, I'm not preempting for startups and women-owned entities. So over to you, Mr. Mahoto.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
You see how they treat the small, what do you call the small ecosystem players? I'm using the mic here. Yeah.
Naughty sound T.
So I think we actually realized early on as a new department, fairly new department, that strategic partnerships are a go-to. You cannot necessarily really survive as a department, and therefore we have built quite a number of strategic partners, and I think you have mentioned the Department of Higher Education, especially Department of Science and Technology.
Yeah.
Just to have to tap into their technologies. But I want to build up on the case that was raised about the startups. We actually have realized that exactly what you're saying. Quite a number of startups, especially within the tech space, are actually migrating overseas because the environment is fairly, fairly in terms of the funding, and also the regulatory mechanisms is fairly actually favorable for them as opposed to what we have in the country. But however, again, on the issue of the startup or on the strategic partnership, we have the startup movement that we are working with so that we can untangle those, try to reduce those
Is that the
particular
Startup Act?
The Startup Act movement, yes.
Awesome.
So that we can be able to deal with those issues of regulatory mechanisms that are actually strangling the startup, because as she rightfully said, we should be able to have high-tech startups that can grow to be big companies, as you see is happening also in the Silicon Valley and other places. I mean, we have Silicon Cape that we can actually tap and utilize to actually get into those particular solutions that can be able to enhance our startup. So we working closely with the likes
Mr.
of
Mahoto,
organizations.
we should have Silicon Limpopo, Silicon KZN, Silicon.
No, I'm just mentioning one. We are aware that there are quite a number of those as well. But we, as I say, I think what we need to deal with is to deal with regulation. Either they come from the Reserve Bank, either they come from the other government departments that are regulating the space. We need to deal with those so that we can be able to. So the Startup Act movement is actually assisting us as a sort of a push in terms of the private sector, and also allowing to influence government to do things that we're supposed to do as government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahoto. So there is work in progress for the startups that want to partner with the public sector. The chairperson has also said that I see there's a big gap for change management and stakeholder engagement when we develop this app, so that we can get feedback. And also, from Mr. Makhashawa, there is an appetite for customizing and reinventing, not reinventing, just to work on what is already existing and enhancing. So thank you very much for joining us for this panel. My MC is coming up because we start. There is one question. We'll take one question for the panelist from the audience. Just one. Thank you.
Fantastic. Do we have any hands at the back? Renee, are you in the room? Okay, great. So we'll stick to one question for this one so that we can then keep to time.
Sure.
Hey, you look beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Mine is more of a question. So I have a skill set in design thinking and service design. It's what my organization provides. And to date, we actually do any of the service design work with government. And I guess my question is for people that are in government. Unfortunately, you're alone. So this is probably more to you, really around churn of like apps going out weekly, monthly from government entities, and more often than not, they actually fail in public. Apps that are supposed to actually serve citizens actually become more of a frustration and effort that is not taking back of design before we actually solutions. So I guess my question is, how is CETA looking to enable this practice just across the spectrum, not for all government departments rather, because we need to do service design, build prototypes, do MVPs before these solutions that actually frustrate our citizens as opposed to actually doing good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great question. Great question. I also want to know the answer.
No, I can take that.
Sure.
No, design thinking is one of the critical skills for growing our digital skills within the country. That and other skills that we need to consider. So as CETA, We have actually created an innovation center in St. Chiron where we train our employees and some of our clients and partners. So we partner with industry in that particular area. But we cannot do it all alone, so there are other entities within government like NEMISA that are also addressing issues of skills across the whole of government. But as you indicate, we are also willing to partner with anybody who's got the capabilities and the skills to add to what we currently have so that we can together grow the skills base in South Africa. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Abubakar would also like to answer that one.
I think it's an excellent question.
Yeah.
Certainly, it's an area that we've neglected. Let me put it out there.
Yeah.
And I think we need to deal with it ASAP.
Sure.
So I think, particularly from a Cheeto Council perspective, as we have the role players that are the digital leaders of all government departments, I think we need to take it upon ourselves to start to look at some of these standards that need to be in place to make sure that we can standardize the experience from an app perspective, from an online system perspective.
Will you MVP this as well? Are we looking at timelines between now and end of the year? I'm putting you on the spot.
Well,
yeah.
I think it's urgent.
It's urgent.
I think it's urgent, but I also want to make just a general call for those in the audience and industry that want to assist us.
Yeah.
Because our challenge is that, as Lucas has indicated, is that we don't necessarily have all of the skills and the capability and capacity to be able to do it right. So it's a general call then to say, come and work with us as the Cheeto Council, CETA, or DPSA collectively, and let's look at what are some of the standards that we need to put in place. And we have the ability to do that between CETA from a technical standard perspective, the DPSA from a norms and standards and policy perspective. We are able to pull the trigger on some of these things that just make sense for us to do. And I think we're prepared to do that.
No, absolutely. And I'm hoping that I haven't read the startup. That is a very valid statement. And I'm hoping that, we are in the Startup Act, we are going to include MVP funding and prototype funding for our startups in South Africa so that they can start to scale and already establish a public market for them within government, for them to start to scale those products and have a market there. So here you are, Mr. Chairperson has asked for those that understand to come on board. I hope that you'll be able to be in touch with them after the session. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. We have come to the end of our session. Thank you. Let's give them a big round of applause.
You can stay on stage. You can stay on stage for me. That's okay.
Okay.
So we're going to swap things around a little bit to make it quite exciting. So you can stay on stage because we're now going to go into our tea break. It is now 11:10. I'm going to ask that we all please make our way back into Hall 1, which is this very room, by 11:25. So it's just a comfort break, so we make sure we're looking after your wellness and you're stretching and having a bathroom break as well. So please make sure you're back at 11:25. Please continue to use the hashtag GovTech23. I will be watching. And also you can use this opportunity to quickly run to the Ultron stand to go and scan the QR codes, because after the next panel, after lunch break, is when I'll be giving the code, and those codes that you then enter into that app are what is going to stand you a chance of winning a car by GovTech and powered by Ultron, an actual car. So please do that. See you at 11:25. Enjoy your tea break, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was just...
Interested in attending 23, but not sure how to pitch the idea to 2020. Here are 5 ways to justify your trip to Cloud World. 1, you'll get to learn from the experts. With over 1,000 sessions and labs organized across topics, roles, and business objectives, you'll get actionable insights directly from experts through hands-on training, demos, and more. 2, you'll build with Oracle on AI, machine learning, cloud infrastructure, analytics, Java, and MySQL. Cloud World delivers brand new, never-before-seen insights from peers. Oracle customers and partners will share their own cloud stories, best practices, and lessons learned to help you in your cloud journey too. And 2022, over 850 customers shared their insights, and we're planning for even more at Cloud World 2023. 4, you'll network with the whole Oracle community. Cloud World brings customers, partners, and employees together from all over the world under one roof, giving you the opportunity to connect and share best practices easily and efficiently. And 5, you'll get access to free digital training and certification. From the time you register until 60 days after the event, you get access to Oracle University digital training covering all cloud solutions, a nearly $5,000 value that will help you level up your skill set. Your registration also includes free exam attempts to earn Oracle certification. Check out our website for more tools and details to help you secure approval to attend Cloud World 2023. Hey, did you like what you learned? Make sure to check out this video or this link, and of course, subscribe now.
if we found a way to speak an animal's language, to sense what they say, to feel what they feel, what could they tell us? If we could immerse ourselves into the world of prey animals, we'd know where they were going, how fast, and why. These animals behave erratically when they sense danger. So by learning their every beat, we could tell. Now imagine we could use this information to protect nature's most threatened, using intelligence and intuition. Imagine Imagine if animals could speak. And if we found a way to listen. There's no need to imagine when the solution's already here.
How do we empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more?
It starts with one.
From one employee.
Partner. To their customers, to their customers' customers.
Your passion, your ingenuity.
Hard work. Supporting inclusive.
Protecting fundamental rights.
Committing to a sustainable future.
Earning trust.
For our society.
Our economy. Our world.
That's the impact. That's the impact.
That's the impact each of us can have.
That's our collective opportunity.
Empowering 8 billion people.
We're entering a new era of AI,
where we will be able to build as fast as our imagination.
Where creativity will have no benefits reach
every country, every industry,
and every individual.
When we empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more,
we empower the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't made your way to the room, please make your way to the room as we will be starting promptly in 5 minutes. So please start making your way to the room because we will be having a panel discussion on fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. So if you can hear my voice, please start making your way to the room so we can start promptly in 5 minutes. It is now 11:39, so we will start at 11:45. So 6 minutes, 11:45. Thank you. Don't laugh at me, Sam. Fantastic. Welcome back from tea break. We will then have two different, one of which includes us hearing from our Honourable Deputy Minister. So please, I'm going to encourage you to please stay seated in the room. And if you can hear my voice from outside, unfortunately, we can't wait any longer as we need to keep time and we need to keep the proceedings going. I hope all of you did go to the Altron stand to go and scan code so that you can qualify then for winning the car. After this session, I'll give you the code that you need to input and then you will start getting your points for all of that. We go straight into a panel discussion now on fostering innovation and entrepreneurship for startups and platform ecosystems. Again, if you're joining us online, welcome and thank you so much for bearing with us. And I hope that you are also had a great tea break wherever you are joining us from. to moderate this conversation. We welcome back on stage already here again, Mr. Sabelo Dlamini. A round of applause for him, please.
Morning, everyone. Morning once again. Glad to meet you again on a different fostering innovation and entrepreneurship, startups and platform ecosystems. So on stage, I'm joined by SMMEs. First from my left is Dr. Leon Rolls, the president of Black ICT, Ms. Mariska Harlal, the founder of Spender Holdings Alter Ego South Africa, and Africa Mkangala, president of Youth Economic Alliance. So in this session, we just to touch base on the impacts that SMMEs have around innovation. Based on their shape, size, and agility, SMMEs are normally the drivers of innovation. These startups, platforms, and normally gets driven by SMMEs. They either get spun into bigger entities, bought out, or they merge to be bigger entities to have impact in our society. We've seen with a number of international unicorns that have impacted innovation worldwide. So we just want to engage with these key players, industry players within SMMEs to see and look at our current landscape, what's happening, and what opportunities are there, and what impact has our SMMEs done within the digital economy. Dr. Leon, I will start with you of the challenges maybe trying to induce this impact into our society.
No, thank you very much, Sabelo, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I think that to look at the challenges that are facing startup and just innovation in the whole, it's government. Right? Not that there's something wrong with our government, but if we have to face the reality, it's the people working in government that are not innovative, old thinking, and are just stuck in the past. That's the problem that we have, and that goes across everywhere. It's not government itself. If you look at the government policies, they do allow for these things, but government people choose. So that's the one problem that we are having just in South Africa. Look at what happened. Where is Shuttleworth today? Where's Elon Musk today? Who chased them away? It's government. Okay. So to me, the biggest problem is government, but to be specific, people that work for government.
Okay, maybe just to add on that, is it access to resources? Mariska, what will you say? What is this problem Dr. Leon is talking about? Is it access to resources? Is it financing? Or what is it? What is the problem? Where is this problem?
Okay, let me just start quickly. I'm going to introduce myself. So I'm a fintech aim to do revitalize the rewards industry, but just as we're launching at the moment, one of, I think, the biggest hurdles and the biggest challenges for any startup is being able to get access to funding. So right now I'm going through these processes, and what they want is your MVP, they want your prototype, they speak to you about all of these various aspects before you even start the business. So I think if companies can focus on, and government institutions, private companies as well, focus on incubation hubs and facilities where these entrepreneurs can get funding, I think that's one of our biggest hurdles. If we can overcome that, yeah, we're getting somewhere.
Okay. No, but there are a number of these incubators, accelerators, mentorship programs that are driven by government all over. Ms. Africa, what will you say about the role that these entities are playing as a support system for the startups and enabling the innovation within SMMEs? What is the traction?
Okay, do you want to go?
There's a role that was envisioned in what they should do. And you hear a lot of the big companies, they'll put up big numbers of how much they've spent. Like creating an ecosystem, you need to start by respecting and knowing what is an ecosystem. So what is an ecosystem? In this space here, it's different organisms in the biological term, but different people playing a different role to sustain progressively a system. Same concept. So what we fight for is the role that SMMEs must play in these incubations and different programs. What we are meant to get when we go in, we're meant to come out with skills that we can't really get anywhere else. Do we get them? No. What they create is a dependency, an over-dependency on that entity that has given you that incubation, and therefore you do not have the skill. So they play a big role. They're supposed to be playing a big role. Apparently there's a lot of money that goes into it, but we don't see the output. If the output was there, the economy would not be what it is today.
Thanks for that, Africa. Mariska, where is the problem? Sustainability of these programs, ethics within the platform economy. What is happening? Maybe can you elaborate where there's challenges in ensuring growth and sustainability of SMMEs?
So I would say one of the big challenges is mentorship. So mentorship in that specific industry, understanding that landscape. So I think getting into, before you even go into raising funding and all of those aspects, I think starting with mentorship. Ethics is a huge thing. So making sure you're giving the right people, how are you why are you giving it to this person and not giving it to the other person? So I think in South Africa there is a lot of nepotism, so it is quite a touchy one, but I would say that those sort of aspects need to be ironed out.
Okay. So yes, Dr. Leon, I think you've been in the industry for a while. If we can look back now, the impacts of SMMEs even across these challenges, how much has it been with this platform? We've seen smaller platforms, job creation, and how much has been the impact, positive or negative, this platform affects the changes in the industry?
Yeah, you see, the saddest part is being an SMME in this country. No? That's a nightmare. That's the worst thing that can ever happen to anyone, right? It's painstaking, right? Now, why we were established as PBICT and why we take the stance that we want, because when we come, this is to lie to you, you with me? But it's lost its taste and its value. We take nothing away from here at GovTech. I don't want to lie to you. There's a lot of SMMEs that are out there. How much of the government people that are here, the services that the SMMEs have developed there, that's our first problem. You with me?
Yes.
So the positive is that you bring us to GovTech. That's a good thing. You're going to go and report to the minister and the deputy minister and say, Deputy Minister, we had a good GovTech, we had a good turnout. You're going to write big English as if you want to impress the Queen. Right? And want someone to clap your hands for you. But the reality is that when it comes to SMMEs, you have done us injustice. I don't want to lie to you. How do you want an SMME? There's SMMEs that are out there that have developed wonderful apps. They must pay 10,000 rand, 15,000 rand to get here. And on top of it, when they are here, how many of you as government are going to buy the services of those SMMEs? You go to all those big stands and all who are we busy playing silly games and those things, but you leave the SMMEs out there. That is where it starts. Now, take away. For the first time, SITA never does anything that impresses us. SITA has done the first thing ever in their life, ever since we started. They brought kids from Free State and those things. Brilliant innovations. I had an engagement with those kids. Wow. Now, this is what you do wrong. You take those kids and you put them right at the back there. Those kids are the first thing that we're supposed to go to so that we can have hope for the future. But you take them and you put them right at the back there. Now that's the bad of it, and that's what happens over and over. Thank you.
Yeah, just to not to cut you, but then you've mentioned this one example of kids, and a number of SMMEs have walked through the exhibition. What do we need to do now for scaling these SMMEs and enabling them to grow? Both public and private sector, what needs to be done to enable these small SMMEs not to lose the energy so that they can be able to scale and grow?
I'm going to give you one answer, and it's called broadband infraco. I say this every time when I come to these platforms. Go to broadband infraco, you as CETA, Centec, and all government. Broadband infraco, what are you doing right? Share with us your procurement plan. SMMEs, when broadband infraco advertises a tender, they had one just now. They had 250 people. They had one last week, 500 SMMEs. And you've got all those SMMEs going for those opportunities. Why? Because their outlook, they have said, we are a state-owned entity and we are going to empower SMMEs. That's the attitude, it's that simple. You go to CETA. CETA says those SMMEs don't exist. No, they don't exist to you because you're not friendly to us. The only way in which you can grow an SMME, Sabelo, give me an opportunity. Give me a 10,000 rand tender to deliver a computer. It makes me happy. CETA can't even do that. The thing that needs to be done by government and the thing that needs to be done by that. Why I'm saying broadband infraco, because you're going to tell me when I go to CETA and I go to all over government, I get told PFMA doesn't allow for this. But an entity that belongs to government, that has been audited and the Auditor General gives them a clean audit, comes and does what we want him to do, but there are no disclaimers, there's nothing. But you tell me it's procurement. So what you do to me, you take the PFMA and you slap it in my face. So how am I going to grow? Government spends 15 billion on technology. And then we are told that go to the private sector and get opportunities. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come to government. You government, give me 40% of your spend as SMMEs. Then watch me grow. And then I will be empowered and I will have the power to go then for the private sector opportunities. But government, open your doors to us and give us opportunities. Go to BBI, learn how they do it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mariska, so how do we now make sure that these are supported and especially, I think, within your sector, fintech? We've seen a lot of initiatives around fintech, but we haven't seen more collaboration, more coming together and having an impact within the financial space, especially within the SMMEs. What support do you need? How do we affect this impact of digital platforms across different startups that are solving different solutions within the fintech?
I think collaboration against the public sector and the private sector. I've specifically worked a lot in the private sector, so I think having collaboration between the two would effect change. Also understanding the entrepreneurial ecosystem, so from a bottom-up approach. So I think understanding it, collaboration, and I think working together.
Mr. Africa, let's look maybe more towards the positives now in the future. What's happening? What are the current trends? What is happening? Maybe some few good examples that things were done right within maybe your youth alliance. What has been the positives and where can we take this forward?
I just wanted to add to what President, before I get to that. I think if you're building a system, you should understand the components that fundamentally become our foundation for a system. So for instance, a lot of these discussions are not research-based. There's not enough research on the impact of SMMEs. So this inability for SMMEs to get work, especially black SMMEs, especially young SMMEs, and especially women-owned SMMEs, their inability to get work has a social, economic impact on society. And what you're not finding is we do all the research on all these other things that are in the air, and we want to talk about climate and whatnot, but we don't want to talk about the baseline items, the food that should go into our stomachs. But there's a culture problem too. It's almost like we're sitting here and we're in a shark tank. What we need is to establish our values as a country that calls itself South Africa, that prides itself in having 9 different provinces with about, 12 different languages, so on and so forth, so many cultures. We're a rainbow nation. We should be diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is our fundamental values as a country. If you look at everything that we sell as a country, it's diversity. That means here it's a diverse panel. You look at the audience, it is a diverse panel. There's inclusion, but this is inclusion into the economy. This is not selective inclusion. You can't then always want to jump and look at future technologies, because we'll look at them and we'll say, but even on the most basic of things, we can't even get our basic coal mining, as an example, correct. We can't even get our basic hardware procurement correct. You want to tell me about cloud computing and the like and future things. What's going to happen then? Where are the platforms that these SMMEs have built and grown their business and evolved their businesses? This is what you guys discuss when you're talking about migration, that it needs to start at this stage, move to this stage, and move to this stage. If I'm not at stage 1, why are we discussing stage 4? How do we get there if we don't have our basics correct? Which is the fundamental arguments that we will argue today, tomorrow, and any other day, and I'm sure most of the officials that are here are used to us. We go to war for SMMEs, and we will continue to do so, because SMMEs in every successful economy make up 90% of all the businesses, 90% plus. So the Europe that we like to visit, 90% of them or more are SMMEs. All successful economies, their bedrock are SMMEs. Why do we resist the same? Why do we treat, especially the black ones, as if we are begging? We speak to black executives in government about creating opportunities, and they look at us like we are leprechauns, as if there is something wrong we are doing. And that's the fundamental. So I can't jump to the future, but I do think to put real policies, just like we have a BE scoring, important on how much you actually contribute to an SMME. Let's break down the different types, the 20 or so different types of that exist to classify. It's just not enough. We're too diverse. We need to go back and have research-based thinking, research-based logic, and strong political outcomes that say we want to change things. And we are unapologetic about a PFMA that we're supposed to have written. Thank you.
Thank you. Mariska, on that, what is the future now? I think Africa talked about that we need to look at the fundamentals. Are we solving the actual African problem? We don't have to be maybe too futuristic or beyond what we are. So currently now, within the space or within the SMME space, what are the problems and the solutions that are there to solve our now problems?
I think what we should be doing is starting basically, even now, I grew up in Durban, moved to Johannesburg for a few years, and I think Cape Town. But I've been an entrepreneur for almost 10 years now, and there's been no support. So from being in Durban, incubation centers, so creating those incubation centers, creating the mentorship, creating aspects of funding, just around actually, even I think it goes even before that, in schools. So from a younger age all the way up to, in terms of your entire entrepreneurial journey, just having that support at each stage, I think we need to start building the facility, start building the collaboration and creating that to go forward.
Summarize. I think we've highlighted most of the challenges maybe around the government and also around the support of the startups going forward. So what will be your generic advice maybe to also the startup, young SMMEs, young founders, innovators, in terms of how do you now navigate this haystack? How do you get get there? How do you get to be seen? So what will be your advice from that side, and also from the government officials that you've highlighted? How do we now change the mindset to the digital thinking, to the SMME thinking?
Sbashai. You know, I'm going to disappoint a lot of people, because had you asked me this question last year or 3 years ago, right? I would have rained down on government and went ranting and raving. But you know something, let's be very honest. DCDT is doing something right, ne? I don't know. I don't want to lie, right? I don't know who's running DCDT, but DCDT is doing something right. I almost said the light is also coming right. Your new MD.
It's good to talk about positive things.
When we talk about your new MD, we call him the lighty. But anyway, I think he's doing something right, ne? So there's a nice projection there. I think for the first time in this sector, we are in sync. Maybe it's because you changed the name, right? So what I would advise government first, whoever is doing what it is that they're doing, they must just carry on doing it. They're going in the right direction. We as SMMEs are seeing change. I don't want to mention broadband infraco too many times because it's going to look like, I like them or something. But the reality is that the projects that they are doing, the way in which they are doing, their mindset, their thinking, must be adopted. We've been saying this from ITU, when we had ITU here in this very same place, that they were doing something right then and they are doing something right now. There needs to be a reform with CETA. CETA will like you, want to help you, but the reality you're selling the country. Outside there, you've got Huawei, Cisco, you've got all of those people. Stop selling the country. Please, stop selling the country. Where are we going to find ourselves in the future? Right now, you and Isabella are standing here. Our granddaughters, our grandsons, are sitting outside of what we are building today. Otherwise, economically, they are not going to be empowered. Because we are not building a future government that is going to be for our grandchildren. Let us stop doing it. You know, when GovTech started, there used to be the first day session. Correction, sorry. CETA used to have a closed session. Day one was a closed session where all government CETOs sat down. There was no service provider, nothing. We sat down and we came up with resolutions like you will not believe it. One of those resolutions back then, as early as 2001, let's go open source. Sovereignty of government data. We need to do that. Number two, SMMEs out there respond to every opportunity that is advertised by Broadband Infraco. CETAs, you're not going to get it. I don't want to lie to you until CETA changes. CETA will not change. I hope the lighty changes it, right? Honestly, we're tired of saying the same thing over and over. It needs to change. But SMMEs out there, with the new team that we are having on DCDT, with the direction that CETA is taking now for the first time, we've seen a lot of improvements in a very short space of time, right? The guy is doing a brilliant job. And I hope that he gets the support from everyone. We as PBICT have taken a stand that we are for the first time going to support CETA and protect and defend the current CETA and what they are doing now. So those are the kind of things that we need to have. But there's just one request that I'm going to make to DCDT. You see that merger with Centec and BBI? Can they hold it for at least 5 years? No. You ask me what they must do. They must just hold it for now. Because there's a lot of lessons that you need to learn from these three entities, including SABC. And right now we are sitting at the time where people are moving into a particular direction. And the innovation and the times is driving us to a certain direction. And you need to collaborate and ultimately have one state-owned entity that even includes CSIR in the future. So right now, you are sitting at the perfect time where we're going to learn and let innovation thrive. And lastly, Sita, the innovation, the theme that you got for this year, please make it the theme for the next 3 years of what you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you also to my panelists. I think we've deliberated a bit. We don't have sufficient time to engage the audience. So thank you very much. I think we also ended on a
Please just keep the round of applause going. Panelists make their way off stage. We're now going to go into quite a critical speech. I'm just going to allow the panelists to clear the way for great discussion. We now go into need to think about whenever we think of technology and whenever we think of innovation, cyber security. We can't get away with cybersecurity. I was actually reading a quote that got my eyes so wide open. It says, amateurs hack systems, but in this day and age, professionals hack people. And so we're never going to get away from hackers. It just takes a matter of time for them to crack. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be chasing a robust cyber security, robust cyber security methods for ourselves. And so to speak to us about that is none other than the Honorable Deputy Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies. Please help me welcome on stage Honorable Deputy Minister Phili Mapula.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Program Director. Is it still good morning? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me greet and acknowledge the presence of the Director General of the Department of Communications and Digital Technology. You have just received some from the panel there. I think DCDT is doing the right things under your leadership, Madam DG Nonkubela Jordan Gianni. The HOD from the Department of Economic Development of KZN, all the chairpersons of our SOEs and the CEOs present, all of you esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be part of this GovTech 2023. As I said last night at the gala dinner, I think that this conference is one of the best GovTech that at least I have attended. I don't know about the many other ones. I attended at least a couple of them. But this year's installation is up to so far, is the best in terms of the organization, in terms the inputs and speakers. So well done to SITA. It is also my singular honor to be afforded an opportunity to address you on this important topic of cybersecurity in effective digital transformation for inclusive growth. It has indeed been a refreshing and fulfilling experience engaging and interacting with movers and shakers in the ICT sector in this year's conference, which has been convened under the theme, Platform Economy, Digital Transformation and Inclusive Growth. Ensuring a thriving digital and transformed technological sector is critical to the future of the South African economy. It is critical to growth, to job creation, to raising the productivity of all South Africans, whether it be for citizens in rural or urban communities, whether it's for SMMEs with good products and aspirations for development. As we are aware, digital technologies are rapidly changing the world as we know it. Digital transformation is therefore not just a trend, but an imperative for survival, for growth, and for innovation. And so if we are to truly embrace digital transformation, we need to sufficiently interrogate and understand this phenomenon and some of its key drivers, which, among others, include the following. The first one is consumer expectation. The modern consumer is connected, is informed, and is always on the move. The consumer demands instant access, personalized experiences, and seamless interactions. Organizations that fail to adapt to this new consumer paradigm risks obsolescence. The second one is operational efficiency. Beyond consumer interaction, digital transformation streamlines operations. Automated processes, data analytics, and integrated systems lead to reduced costs, minimize errors, and faster response time. A digital-first approach allows companies to do more with less, achieving higher productivity levels. The third one is unlocking new opportunities. Digital technologies, from artificial intelligence to the Internet of Things, have paved the way for businesses to enter uncharted territories, whether it's tapping into new markets, launching innovative products, or identifying unique customer segments. The digital landscape is rife with opportunities that were previously unimaginable. Fourthly, competitive edge. In many sectors, the difference between leaders and laggards is their degree of digital adoption. Technologies and strategies position themselves at the forefront, often outpacing competitors in capturing market share. Fifthly is data-driven decision-making. One of the most transformative aspects of digitalization is the power of data. Organizations today have access to vast amount of data, from customer behavior to operational metrics. With the right analytical tools, this data can be harnessed to derive insights, forecast trends, and make informed decisions, removing much of the guesswork that once plagued businesses. The sixth is scalability and agility. In a traditional setup, scaling often means substantial investments in infrastructure and manpower. Digital platforms, on the other hand, offer elasticity. Businesses can scale up or down based on demand, ensuring agility in response to market fluctuations. And lastly, era has shrunk the world. A startup in Pretoria or Johannesburg or Nelspruit can cater to customers in any part of the world. The barriers to geography are diminishing, allowing businesses of all sizes to operate on a global scale. Digital transformation, therefore, offers businesses the tools, strategies, and mindset not just to survive, but to thrive in an interconnected, digital-first world. While challenges persist, the potential rewards from growth and efficiency to innovation and global reach make the journey not just an essential, but invaluable. However, this digital boom is a double-edged sword, as with increasing digital footprints, vulnerabilities surface. In the past few years alone, we have witnessed high-profile cyber attacks on businesses, causing not just financial loss, but damaging their reputation and shaking the trust of their customers and shareholders. Among reports of cyber crimes is expected to inflict huge damages annually. And that's not just large corporations at risk. Small and medium enterprises are often prime targets due to perceived weaker security postures. Any individual or organization doing business on the internet, either government departments or state-owned entities, can be targeted by cyber criminals. It is therefore critical that digital infrastructure must be protected. We all know of the horror stories that affected individuals, businesses, and governments across the world, confirming that social networks and mobile device interconnectedness can be a breeding ground for malware. A pervert who was found guilty of sexual abuse and trafficking of children, for creation and distribution of child pornography, and was sentenced to 12 life sentences. Unsurprisingly, the of any need to intensify our efforts to fight online gender-based abuses. Because we spend an inordinate amount of time on the internet, the risks are higher. In the latest Global Digital Report, drawing data from several sources and research groups, it was established that South Africa has averaging 10 hours a day. In other ways, South Africans are regarded as the biggest internet addicts in the world, spending an average of 9 hours and 38 minutes daily, connected on any device. This is far higher than the global average of 6 hours and over 2 hours more than the USA. On cyber attacks, there has been a number of instances of cyber attacks. In 2021, an attack on the United States colonial pipeline caused it to shut down for several days. President Joe Biden called a state of emergency. In the United Kingdom, a technology supplier to the country's National Health Service fell victim to a ransomware attack in 2022, disrupting important functions. In mid-2022, Estonia was the victim of its most intense cyber attack since 2007. In May last year, a ransomware gang infiltrated Costa Rican government system. Increased internet penetration across our country can give rise to the sophisticated attacks on our ICT infrastructure. Also here in the home front, I'm sure you'll remember that Transnet recently was a victim of cyber attacks, causing a loss of millions of rands on its operations. And so digital transformation without robust cybersecurity is akin to building a skyscraper on a weak foundation. No matter how impressive it looks, it's always at risk of crumbling. Now, some of the key elements of cybersecurity and digital transformation are the following. The first one is trust. At the heart of any business lies trust. When customers engage in a digital platform, they trust it with their very private and personal data. A single breach can erode years of built trust. Cyber attacks can disrupt operations. For companies that heavily rely on digital platforms, This could mean significant downtimes, losses, and setback in their transformation journey. Lastly is the legal and regulatory compliance. With regulations like POPIA, businesses are mandated to ensure data privacy. Non-compliance due to lack of cybersecurity can lead to hefty penalties. Now, what are the steps that need to be taken to secure a digital future? Whilst the challenges are manifold, they are not, however, insurmountable. May I at this point out a few key points that companies need to do to maintain their cybersecurity in their digital business processes. The first one would be awareness and training, that companies need to educate employees about the importance of cybersecurity. Secondly, on investment, companies need to view cybersecurity not as a cost, but as an investment. This means that not only investing in tools and technologies, but also in skilled personnel. Thirdly is regular audits and assessment. The regularity of assessment and audits must be performed on companies' digital infrastructure to uncover and to address vulnerabilities. Fourthly is collaboration. Cybersecurity is a collective effort. Collaborate with experts. Companies need to collaborate with experts, other businesses, and even competitors to share knowledge and best practice. And lastly is to stay updated. The digital landscape is evolving, and so are cyber threats. So companies need to stay updated on the latest threats and mitigation techniques. Data gathering and tracking of individual behaviors by digital firms has implications for privacy rights, as POPIA Act has worked to address this. But we know that more needs to be done as we mainstream this important concept. Going forward, there must be more investment into our digital transformation drive that ensures that government information assets are always protected, be it data at rest, data in compute, or data in transit. For government, the critical areas in information and cybersecurity that is fundamental to protecting the assets of the state include the need for improved information and cybersecurity skills. We need purpose-driven initiative to build local digital transformation skills, information security skills, cybersecurity skills, machine learning, and artificial intelligence skills. As more government services go online in the digital transformation journey, one thing we must guard against strenuously is the threat of cyber attacks. Government employees, citizens, and all role players must be vigilant and aware of this potential threat through awareness initiative. To ensure information and cybersecurity resilience, our government information ecosystem must be designed and maintained for high levels of information and cybersecurity resilience in this ever-changing landscape. We must collectively as a country use best practices and standards to build in-depth defenses in our digital infrastructure services. The POPIA prescripts of sovereignty, that is data privacy, residence, and sovereignty, must be built into the design principles of the government information ecosystem to protect the states and its citizens. The bottom line is that we are as strong as our weakest link. We must build and share people's skills, processes, technology in partnerships spanning local and international boundaries. As a country, we have laid a solid foundation with the adoption of the National Cybersecurity Policy Framework of 2015. It does provide a holistic approach to the promotion of cybersecurity measures. It is supported by a National Cybersecurity Implementation Plan, which lays out roles and responsibilities, timeframes, specific performance indicators, and monitoring and evaluation mechanism. Among others, the Cyber Crimes Act 19 of 2020 intends to create offenses which have a bearing on cyber crimes, to criminalize the disclosure of data messages which are harmful, and to provide for interim protection orders, to further regulate jurisdiction in respect of cyber crimes, and to regulate the powers to investigate cyber crimes, and lastly, to regulate aspects relating to mutual assistance in respect of the investigation of cyber crimes. Some of the new offenses in the Cyber Crimes Act are related to data, messages, computers, and network, and include hacking, unlawful interception of data, ransomware, cyber forgery and uttering, cyber extortion, and malicious communications. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, notwithstanding the perils lurking in the dark, the digital space is the biggest place we can be at this age and time, considering all advantages enjoyed by an inclusive, digitally transformed society. Enhanced cybersecurity frameworks and systems, supported by legislation, will ensure that we all thrive in digital South Africa. Let us remember that cybersecurity has no boundaries. We can't afford to let our guard down at any time or at any day. As the world is rapidly changing, we need to engage more to ensure that we remain proactive and not reactive to cyber crimes. I'd like to thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Minister. Thank you. Fantastic. So we have reached the end of our morning session. A couple of announcements before we all then proceed to a comfort break. If you have been partaking in the competition, I do have some codes that I would like to then hand over to you that you can punch into the system to accumulate your points. So if you were listening to the panel discussion on digitalization for the competition for the car, please punch in the code 4187. The app will tell you this. So if you have the app, you'll know the numbers. I'm just going through them for clarity. If you were listening to then the conversation on the Imbizo, I love calling it the Imbizo, by Prof. Mpho Raburifi, then the code there is 9250. The panel discussion for building collaborative ecosystems, the code there is 3671. The panel discussion on fostering innovation and entrepreneurship, the code there is 7093. And of course, what we just heard now from Honourable Deputy Minister, the code there is 5421. I hope you're all accumulating your points and standing a chance to win this car. Please don't forget to take pictures and videos. We'd like to be on social media. And you just use the hashtag GovTech23. We will now break. Please do not come back into this room. You will then be split into 3 different rooms, and these will be our concurrent track streams. The first track is on digital economy. That will be chaired by Ms. Kathy Leso in room 11. So room 11, if you go out and go to your left, you will see it's written in big, room 11. Track number 2 is on big data and AI. That's chaired by Mr. Buntu Manichana. That's room 12. So that's also out the room to the left. You'll first pass room 11, then you will see room 12. Then our third and final track will then be on empowerment and SMMEs. That will be chaired by Mr. Norbert Williams. That is then in room 21. So that's if you go outside and you go to the right, not the left this time, then you will have that track. I'd like to thank all of you morning. It is in the morning to your tracks at you're going 1:15. After your track sessions, you come back into Hall 1, and then we will proceed the conversations with Honourable Deputy Minister. For those of you joining us online, thank you. Also enjoy your break. I will hand you over to a different program director after lunch for the last time on this stage this year. My name is Tamin Kadimeng. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Interested in attending Oracle Cloud World 2023, but not sure how to pitch the idea to your manager? We've got your back. Here are 5 ways to justify your trip to Cloud World. 1, you'll get to learn from the experts. With over 1,000 sessions and labs organized across topics, roles, and business objectives, you'll get actionable insights directly from experts through hands-on training, demos, and more. 2, you'll build with Oracle. With technical education on AI, machine learning, cloud infrastructure, analytics, Java, and MySQL, CloudWorld delivers brand new, never-before-seen content for developers by developers. 3, you'll gain insights from peers.